Qualities, characteristics, and roles of a leader. Understanding the mental needs. What does this mean? Understanding the mental needs is caring and taking into account of what your participants are going through outside of the sport lesson and inside of the sport lesson. This also means caring for your participants, making them feel welcome, and this can be achieved by creating fun sessions and not shouting or providing a negative vibe during the session. A leader with this quality, their students in the lesson would respect the leader and listen to them. The participants would also feel comfortable to approach and ask about anything from the leader. The leader would also have a class all engaged in the session, and there would be no complaints after the session and no unhappy participants. A leader without this quality, if a leader lacked this quality, there would be students that want to participate or fully commit to tasks, so they might not listen to the teacher if they ask them to do something. The participant would feel uncomfortable around the leader. The session wouldn't run smoothly, as some students may not listen, as if they have problems from outside of the session, and they won't be focused. How to improve and understanding the mental needs. This can be improved by the leader observing more experienced coaches and taking notes on their techniques. The leader could also practice in coaching different groups of people and trying to solve different personal situations. These would provide better hands-on experience. Understanding the physical needs. What does this mean? Understanding the physical needs of your participants is caring for their health and requirements. This is doing things like making sure you adapt your session to the physical needs of your participants and make the session specific to their abilities within the sport. This is also making sure you know what each participant can and can't do. Also, this means taking note of taking weight, height, age, and sex into consideration. If a leader didn't have this understanding physical needs quality, the respect from the people they're coaching wouldn't be there. Participants would have more of an The participants would have more of an enjoyable session. They would feel comfortable around the leader. There would be a reduced chance of any injuries occurring during the session, as the leader would have done everything to minimize this risk if they had taken everything into consideration by changing someone who's 6'4" and not matching them up with someone who's 4 foot, as an example. A leader without this quality could result to participants being dehydrated if they don't care about, if they're not looking at whether everyone's healthy and not thirsty or anything if it's hot outside. Some participants would get into arguments with the leader because of disagreements. People may get injured and participants won't have the respect for their leader. Understanding the physical needs, how to improve on this quality. To improve and understand the physical needs, depending on the ages of the group is coaching, To improve and understand the physical needs, depending on the age group a leader is coaching, they could take a childcare course for more understanding. They could also spend more time coaching. This can be done by increasing the length of a coaching session. Lastly, they could spend valuable time analysing other non-professional or professional coaches teaching different ages and taking notes. In doing this, they'll gain the experience. They'll need to understand how to treat people and take physical needs into consideration. Knowledge of rules and laws. What does this mean? This means the leader has to have some understanding in the sport they're teaching and know what the players can and can't do. The rules and laws of certain sports will change depending on the age group the leader is teaching, and they have to know and adapt for situations like this. Having this knowledge as a leader means the leader will know what to do if someone gets injured and hurts, and they know how to prevent injuries. Knowledge of rules and laws. If a leader did not have this quality, or if the leader did have this quality, the injuries risk would be reduced a lot. The session would run smoothly as participants would be completing tasks and drills correctly, the participants would enjoy the session more as the leader knowing the rules and laws would reflect into the game circumstances. For example, if there was a nasty tackle, the leader would know what to do, as in to give a yellow card or red card. A leader without this quality, there would be more injuries during the session. Participants wouldn't respect the leader and less likely to enjoy the session. Complaints may be made about the leader not knowing how to do their job properly. The participants would lose focus during the session. Knowledge of rules and laws. How to improve knowledge of rules and laws. And this can be improved by taking a course on a specific sport that they are teaching. For example, if they were doing football or teaching football, they'll take an FA Level 1 coaching course to understand how the game is played properly. This can also be improved by watching and observing competitive games and observing the referees and the officials and the umpires of the sport you are teaching. Knowledge of sports skills. What does this mean? This is having the knowledge of different techniques and skills within a sport that a leader is teaching. This also means knowing techniques and how to perform and demonstrate them to participants. Leaders have to have knowledge so they know what they're teaching and they know what they're doing correctly. If a leader didn't have this quality, or if a leader did have this quality, there would be an improvement in the ability of the sport within the participants. The participants would enjoy more prepared, organised sessions. The leader would have the participants' full attention. If a leader didn't have this quality, the participants would notice that the leader doesn't know what they're doing, and they won't listen or respect them. The session would be run very unorganised. If the participants are older, they will argue that they know how to do things better. Knowledge of sports skills. How to improve the knowledge of sports skills. Knowledge of sports skills. Get out! Knowledge of sports skills. This can be improved by the leader taking part physically in the sports they are about to teach. They should also observe professional coaches by watching videos on YouTube. They could also take a low-level coaching course on some sports so they have an idea of the fundamentals. Approachability. What does this mean? This means and goes under being friendly and treating your participants as equals, so the respect for you is there. If you are an approachable leader, then the participants will find it easy to talk to you. This also means looking professional, setting an example by wearing the correct uniform. If a leader didn't have this characteristic, or if a leader did have this characteristic, participants would feel a lot more comfortable asking questions to the leader. The session would run smoothly as participants would enjoy the leadership from this leader. If a leader didn't have this characteristic, when the leader will ask questions, no one will reply. The leader may not feel comfortable teaching a group that doesn't find him or her approachable. How to improve being approachable as a leader. A leader could improve on being approachable by having more experience in leading a group at different ages to build confidence. They could also take coaching courses on sports like football, where you have to lead different ages. Commitment. What does this mean? Being committed as a sports leader is to do things and set up things like drills properly. If you are leading a group and you want to make sure things are done so the session goes well. As a leader, by being committed, you have to make sure you're on time or early to set up your session, or do things like show demonstrations of drills. If a leader did have this characteristic, sessions would be very organised. They would have the full attention of the participants, no matter what their age. The session would be well structured and enjoyable. If a leader didn't have this characteristic, the session would be organised, and the session would be unorganised. The leader would lose attention of the participants early on. The session would be messy, and the leader might lose interest in the session as they may feel they can't be bothered. How to improve this characteristic. This characteristic can be improved by turning up to sessions earlier before the participants to get everything ready. being more organised, having more experience by teaching more sessions and building experience. Consistency, what does this mean? Consistency in sport is meant by always being planned and having a schedule to follow up, so no mistakes are made within your sessions. This also means provide a controlled and well-planned session all the time and not just once. So have a pattern with good organisation. If a leader didn't have this characteristic, then participants will start to expect a usually poor planned session from the leader, so standards are low. Leaders may be late for some sessions or not turn up for some. If a leader did have this quality, participants will be happy with the sports leader sessions and enjoy them. The sessions will be good, as in well structured and planned out every time. How to improve this characteristic? This characteristic can be improved by creating a weekly schedule or keeping a planner in which you take note of the session you are set to teach. In doing so, you will always know when your sessions are and what you will be teaching, and therefore being more consistent. Forgiveness. What does this mean? This characteristic means to react normally to disagreements with the participants and just accept that they have different opinions. When things like arguments or disagreements happen, you are not meant to react inappropriately and more of a professional manner. If a leader did have this characteristic, they would not argue or single out participants because they didn't say something or do something right. They would listen to opinions and take into consideration what a participant might want to change, say or do differently in a sport. A leader without this quality, if a leader never had this quality, then they might get into small conflicts with the group they are teaching. They may single out or verbally bully someone if the leader called out a wrong call as a referee in the sport, and that person they single out may argue back. Forgiveness, how to improve this characteristic. To improve this characteristic, the sports leader could also take coaching courses or even just analyse and have semi-professional coaches and leaders run a session and deal with conflicts. They could also do some background research on how sports leaders have dealt with other incidents while teaching. Role model, what does this mean? As a sport leader, a role model is someone who sets a good example. During your session, if you come across as fun, enthusiastic, and a nice person, your participants who you are teaching will follow up on your vibe. If a leader didn't play this role, then they would lose the interest of the participants. But if a leader did play this role, then the participants would naturally enjoy it and put effort into the sessions. If the leader is a role model, then the participants will look up to them and try their best to imitate or be like them or better. How to improve on being a better role model. This can be improved by practicing or taking courses on the sports you teach in order to get better at teaching them and performing them yourself. This can also be improved by treating participants with respect and as equals, as well as providing good quality sports lessons and physical demonstrations. Motivator, what does this mean? This is a role in which a sports leader should play in order to boost the morale of participants and make them feel like they're always doing well. Being a motivator is done by encouraging and instructing athletes while they are playing, when they make a good tackle in football or provide a good answer during the session. A leader with this role, who plays this role, will make the athletes feel like they have a sense of achievement after being motivated by them, by praising them, and could lead to a good friendship. They would also have the respect of the athletes that they are teaching after they're motivating them. A leader without this role, the athletes would lose respect for their leader and may as feel as like they don't like them. Being a better motivator can be improved by constantly praising athletes and participants during sessions, as it's easy to do. The leader should also do this often when someone in their session does something like provide a good answer. The leader could reply saying, "Well done, what a great answer," which will boost the participants' morale.